Hi guys, we are back with our second video in a day. This will be the third ramble video I do. We're just going to continue on where we left off in the last one from today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Ragged Cloak Druids, picking back up. So here are some of the Ragged Cloak Druids, and they get their name from a practice where they will travel from village to village within a place like the Kingdom of Swordheim or Ostvik, and they will do healing tasks or helpful tasks for the local villagers. And in thanks, the villagers will take some fabric from a quilt or something that they love, and they will then sew it into the cloak of the druid in thanks and as a blessing. And so over many years, the cloaks of these druids become literally these brightly festooned, colorful, but quite heavy cloaks covered in all of the little scraps of thanking material that have been sewed into them. So that's where that kind of terminology comes from. This is another image by Marcin. Did a great job on most of my character art so far. This is Queen Gerid of Skirga, Queen Gerid Half-Elven, and she has a one of her eyes is white, and while she can see normally through it, it's a symbol of her ability as a seer. She is able to catch glimpses of the future, along with being some kind of a spellcaster herself, and quite possibly a shapeshifter as well. There are rumors that she is secretly the high priest over the Ragged Cloak Druids in the north. Queen Gerid is one of the only personages in the north powerful enough and willing to resist the Wraith King, Pizarroon Sin. And while Pizarroon Sin reigns over his evil kingdom of Asmergar for very nearly 150 years, Queen Gerid eventually confronts and defeats him at a battle called the Battle of the Spearmark. And in that battle, Pizarroon Sin's physical body is slain, and three powerful magic items that he carried with him are captured by Queen Gerid and the Ragged Cloak Druids, and then they are scattered and hidden throughout the north so that they are difficult to find. Now they do this because Queen Gerid has had a vision whereby she knows that the spirit of the Wraith King is not completely defeated, and that given the three artifacts of his power, which are a sword, a scepter, and a signet ring of his kingdom of Asmergar, that if those three objects were brought together and certain rituals performed, that his evil spirit could then be indwelled into a new body, and that he could be resurrected. And so I like to journal all this stuff, and I have quite a few journals that I'm sort of compiling things into. And in one of these I have some, some write-ups and pictures, little sketches of some of the artifacts and that sort of thing. So Pizarroon Sin continues to be a major evil villain in the campaign, but he is in a evil spirit form, not a physical body. Sin can only manifest himself at one of the standing stone sites or religious sites constructed specifically for that purpose by his Druids of the Henge. He can't just appear anywhere. And when he does that, he's pretty powerful. He's sort of a spectral, ghostly kind of a figure. He's able to, uh, if he's able to reach out and attack somebody or touch somebody in those standing stones, he can drain a life level from them. And if he's able to drain enough levels from them where he slays them, then they come back as a shadow, which is a type of D&D monster, to serve him. And during combats, he's able to use this dark miasma ability where this blackness kind of rolls, this fog rolls out in the area, and he calls up these shadows, which will attack on his behalf. Sometimes the standing stones left behind by the druids of the henge are even haunted by some of these shadows and guarded by them. The three artifacts that he has are a sword called Gleam, which is a magical sword. It has some minor magical properties, but it's got a +3 bonus versus living humans, so it's quite deadly against regular humans. He has a signet ring, which is provides some protection ability, but also is a ring of human influence, and so through that power, somebody, if they got a hold of it, could charm and sway humans so that they do what they want them to do. And then he has a scepter called Gloom, which is the head of the scepter is this big, heavy stone of obsidian that is like a magical mace that he can wield. And all three of these items need to be gathered together at one of the standing stone sites, and certain ceremonies practiced in order to let him possess the prepared body of some sacrifice. At any rate, that is one of the goals of the bad guy druids of the henge. And one of the conflicts between the druids of the henge and the ragged cloak druids is, of course, the ragged cloak druids are trying to thwart this effort along with Queen Gerd Halfelden. So one of the other factions in the north is the Corby. We talked a little bit about them. The Corby serve 4 hags, and I have a magical book that I put together with different fun alphabets and sigils and that sort of thing, so that I can write out messages or inscriptions or glyphs or things like that, and the player characters can get a hold of these alphabets and they can decode them for themselves, so they can figure out what the clues are and what's going on. So this is an example out of my magic book. Some stuff that has to do with the Corby, the priests of the hags. So there's the different symbols of some of the hags themselves. The hags are Hecuba, Drella, Oneza, and Crone. And Crone is considered to be the most powerful and evil of the hags. And in fact, Crone is Aglaika's nemesis. Crone is what is left of the wife of the elven sun god, who was responsible for cursing Aglaika in the first place. And now Crone is in a much reduced power, is part mad, is now this ugly hag creature dwelling in swamps, and at any rate, so that's what's going on with that. This is a Corby stone. Some of these are scattered about the maps that I have of the wilderness. This is where villagers who revere the Corby and assist them can leave out offerings of food for the Corby when they're traveling by. If they have a specific request or a prayer for the hags, they'll cut their fingers and leave bloody fingerprints or swipe their bloody fingers across these stones to mark that they have something specific that they're wanting. They're these sort of goddess figures with the symbols of the 4 hags on them that are like little hag idols that in some parts of the north are illegal now. And then this is a hag knife, which would be carried by a Corby, and it's got an enchanted cat's eye gem on it that the hags, with the right spell, the hags can see through and then communicate to the surrounding area kind of telepathically. So that's what's going on with that. And then this is another picture that Marcin did. And it's got kind of that Corby vibe, even though this could easily also be a ragged cloak druid guy. He's much more wild man looking. He's got a staff and that sort of thing. And I, out of all the pictures that were done, I sort of feel like this kind of captures the image of the Corby that I was thinking of, wandering about in the north, doing the bidding of the hags. So one of the other major plot lines is that the invasion of the Necrogarchy of Lang 300 years ago launched this war called the Nightshade War. And it was a really bad conflict where the guild wizards who had protected the kingdoms of the West were forced to unleash these population destroying level spells in order to protect the kingdoms of the West, and so whole cities were depopulated and destroyed. And at the end of the war, even though the invasion was resisted and the Necrogarchy really only captured a small amount of territory over what it had wanted to capture, the people of the West were fairly done with super powerful, out of control arcane magic. And so this group called the Pentagarchy rose up and preached this message that arcane magic should be controlled, and that only Pentagarchy mages, people who were carefully, especially trained and picked, should be able to wield arcane magic. And so that spread throughout all the kingdoms of the South until now. In the civilized kingdoms, the Pentagarchy has replaced the guild wizards, and now they control all of the magic. So in the north, that philosophy has started to creep in, so that the High King over the kingdom of Swordheim, who's sort of traditionally got authority over all the other petty kingdoms of the north, he can call them all together to defend the north if necessary, in theory. His name is Ron Dogslayer, and he has one surviving child, which is his daughter Truda. Ron has made alliances in the kingdoms of the south, and one of those alliances is that he has brought in both the Pentagarchy and the Church of the Everflame to basically guide and control what's going on in his kingdom, and then also it's been accepted into the kingdoms of Osvik and a couple of the other petty kingdoms of the north. And so the Pentagarchy is working to hunt down any lingering guild wizards which might still be hiding in the north, and to try to wrestle the power out of the hands of the druids and any other magical casters that might be in the area, so that ultimately their goal is that only the Pentagarchy will control arcane spells, and that all other native pagan religions will be destroyed or suppressed, so that only the clerics of the Church of the Everflame have authority over any kind of clerical magic. And to that end, the Pentagarchy employ these guys called the Hallows, who are kind of enchanted with protective magic so that they can resist arcane spells, and they're sort of like witch hunters. This is a picture that Marcin did me of one, which I quite like. And this might be another image of another Hallow. So we're kind of running out of time, but very briefly, basically a Pentagarchy mage binds himself to a warrior so that he gives up some of his magic, so that warrior, when he is tattooed with the pentacles of the Hallows, is protected from arcane magic, and it links them permanently. So anyway, that's all the time we have. Hope to catch you later in the week, maybe with another map video or something else. Thanks for watching.